Good morning, it's Barry here from Woodland Ways, one of the instructors. I'm out on a dog walk this morning, part of my hour's exercise during this quite interesting time we're going through. But what I thought I'd do is just show you a few bits and pieces that I find along the way. There's my dog in the background, that's Willow. So she's going to be coming with me this morning, but what I thought I'd do is show you a few bits and pieces that I find along the way, because I live in quite an interesting part of the country. I'm in Essex, which a lot of people consider to be a very urban environment, but actually I'm in a very rural part, but not only rural but also at a river estuary, which is tidal. So I do get an awful lot of interesting bits and pieces along the way. So I hope you'll join me, and we'll see what we can find along the way. But just so you can see a few bits and pieces, let me just do a quick scan of what's around us. So there are the houses in the distance. That's the village of Alresford, which is just on the outskirts of a big town called Colchester. But if I just have a quick scan around, we sort of leave the village behind, and immediately we're into farm fields. Okay, so let's go and have a look, see what we can find. I think Willow's getting fed up of waiting, so let me go and catch her up. Okay, we're a little bit further along the walk now. And one of the first plants that we've come across that I wanted to show you is greater reed mace, or the scientific name Typha latifolia. You'll have to forgive me if that's not how you pronounce it, but being not a Latin expert, I go with what I see. So the greater reed mace, we've got this all along the stream here, growing quite readily just on the edge of the farm field. And this is one of my fantastic resources for my friction fire kit. So as you can see, the seed heads there usually look a little bit like a sausage on a stick, but when the seeds start to explode, very, very fluffy, and masses and masses of them. So usually at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, I sort of collect 4 or 5 of those seed heads and get them nice and dried off. And then that makes a fantastic fluffy case at the centre of my tinder bundles for taking the customers through friction fire lighting. Other uses, as you can see, lovely tall straight stems. So for a hand drill, they're really good as well for friction fire. But one of the main uses is going to be getting really wet, digging down into those roots, and digging up the rhizomes, so they're a really nice substitute for some carbohydrates. But one of the other things that's fantastic, just along the stream here, hello Willow, she's still catching, you've got your tennis ball, hey, you got your tennis ball, hey, you're going to say hello to everybody. Alright, one of the other things I wanted to show you is where Alresford gets its name from. So just coming along here, we've got these lovely, lovely big trees right on the edge of the stream, and again just at the edge of the farm fields. So this is where Alresford gets its name from. So from the alder tree, or the Latin name Alnus. Now from the distance, the alder tree is really easy to see at this time of year, because you have all of these lovely cones still attached. Absolutely tiny, but such a very good giveaway as to the fact that you found an alder tree. So really good indicator of water, and you can spot them from a long, long way off. Again, really good for friction fire, so you know, again, a nice resource for me. Very close to where I'm getting my fluffy stuff for my tinder bundles. Okay, we're going to head a bit further on now, because we're still not quite at the tidal estuary, and I've got lots more to show you. Right, so we've just left the farm fields, and we're starting to head a little bit more towards the coast. But this is one of my favourite spots on my walk. The farm fields are just back there, but what we have to do is walk between two massive lakes. So there's one on one side of the footpath, and just coming round we've got one on the other side of the footpath as well. They are all fenced off because they're part of the Angling Association, but they're also incredibly deep. So these are actually remnants of old ballast works where they used to dig up the gravel and the sand from around the area, because we're quite rich in those materials here where I live. We do still have the ballast works going on. So if I just walk a little bit further, Willow's waiting for a tennis ball. It's a good girl. If I walk just a little bit further up here, what we have is the private road for the ballast works themselves. And the ballast works are actually open today. We've just had a truck go past, so we need to make sure that there's no lorries coming. Right, come on then, Willow, quick, quick. So as you can see, incredibly rural, but we do still have a lot of heavy industry going on as well. But where I'm heading is a little bit further along. And if I just scan across here, just beyond the trees that you can see in the distance there is where the tidal estuary is. So let's crack on and see what we can find. Right guys, we're a little bit further on in the walk now. We're probably about 50 metres away from the tidal estuary, and I've just taken a quick stop because I wanted to show you a couple of interesting plants that I pass pretty much every day when I'm walking Willow, and she likes to put a tennis ball next to them, so she knows that I stay here and stop here quite often at this time of year. So let me just give her tennis ball back to her, and then I'll introduce the plant. There we go. So the one we're looking at is down here, and we've got a lovely big clump of it. I'll give you a bit of a scan around. So you can see the white flowers from quite a distance. So this is three-cornered leek. Okay, it gets its name from the flower stalk. So if I just pick one, I don't know if you can see that, if I can get the camera to focus. But what we've got is a lovely sort of triangular shape to the stalk. It's focusing a lot on my fingers at the moment, but hopefully you can pick that up and see the bit of a blurry triangular shape. We can have a look at the flowers. So lovely white in colour and a real trumpet shape. And if you can have a look inside, you can see that lovely sort of stripe going right down the centre of each of the petals. Yeah, so a real cluster on each stalk, and we've got those 6 white petals with the lovely green streak down. Now a lot of people rave about ransoms or wild garlic, but actually I wish you could smell this. If I give it a crush up, it's just got an amazing sort of garlicky, oniony smell. Obviously to everybody smells come across a little bit different, but I love picking that, have that as a salad with my dinner. It's really beautiful at this time of year, very, very fresh smell. But that triangular shape to the leaf stalk is what the flower stalk is what we're really looking for, because these large sort of flat leaves, they've got a little bit of a ridge through them, but they're nowhere near as triangular as the leaf stalk itself. There's a bit of a ridge running along the back there, if you can see it. So they do have a little bit of a triangular shape in profile, but it's really the flower stalk that you're looking for. The reason I love this patch is because it's a real good sort of example of how you can get a little bit carried away when you're foraging, because what I've got right next to the patch of the three-cornered leek is actually bluebells. So the bluebells are coming through now. We're quite early with the flowers here because being so far south, we do get a lot of things flowering earlier, but even these are out quite early for this area. Normally we don't get the flowers in the woods until sort of middle of April, 3rd, 4th week of April. But here, because we're quite close to the tidal estuary, they've come through a bit earlier. So it's nice that I can show you the flowers. But I don't know if you can see here, but what I've got is the leaves for the three-cornered leek on one side completely intermingled with the leaves of the bluebells that are interspersed just on the outside of the clump. The concern I have with that is if you get too carried away with your foraging, what you're going to do is actually pick bluebells, which are toxic. So really do pay attention when you're picking and foraging, guys, because it can go horribly wrong. We've dropped down the hill now from where we found the three-cornered leek, and we're now at the estuary. So I'm just going to have a quick scan around so you can see where I am. The tide's actually out this morning, so we've got a lot of the mud exposed, so I'm certainly hoping that Willow's going to stay out of that this morning. But if I have a scan around, again, just to show you that we're still not too far from civilization, just up the river there in the direction of Colchester, you can see we've got Wivenhoe on the right hand side and a small village called Rowhedge on the left hand side. So we're never too far away from a population, but thankfully I've not actually seen anyone yet this morning, so I have the place to myself. We've got a small bit of sand, but don't let that make you think that we're at a beach by any stretch of the imagination. As I say, it's very, very sort of rural in approach, and the North Sea is just out there. Okay. But what we do have is quite an extensive habitat. It's actually a protected area. It's got a few different classifications that sits over the top of it. So we get a lot of wading birds, a lot of wildlife coming down into the estuary and using the habitat for its purposes. But as a forager, we've got some amazing resources here as well. So although we're not truly at what you would call the coast, we're only a short distance in, probably about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile at the most from the North Sea. So we start to get a real mixture of plants going on. And because it's not a heavily trafficked area with people, we do get quite a lot of resources. So first things first, what we've got down here is very easy to identify. It's a seaweed called bladderwrack. So if I just pick a piece and scan in, so very, very easy to identify. If you can see, we've got these lovely pockets of air, hence the name bladder. Yeah, it's really sort of picking up and through. So the bladderwrack is a seaweed, very easy to identify, and you can cook that up and have that as a bit of a sort of fresh green. These are all looking a little bit dirty because the tide's not long gone out, and as you can see, we do have an awful lot of mud around here. So as with most things, you'd want to be collecting it but giving it a really good wash, especially here, because as I said, in the distance there we've got Colchester, Wivenhoe, Rowhedge, and we are, you know, I say, very, very close to habitation. So I would be concerned a little bit about chemicals and what have you on this. So I would be wanting to give it a really, really good wash before I did anything with it. But very, very easy to identify, very, very plentiful. So you're certainly not going to strip an area bare. So we would want to follow that, you know, find 7, pick 1. And you're not going to struggle to do that here at all. But if I scan around and come a little bit further up, what I find first is Willow's tennis ball. So let's give that back to her. She's hiding there somewhere. I don't know if you can see her, but let's throw the ball for her. There she goes. Yeah, we do like to play games of Where's Willow, but what I'm going to do is just come a little bit further in to a higher up mark on the tide. And what we've got here is a plant called sea purslane. So it's almost like a shrubby little bush. It can grow to a reasonable size, but you know, this is quite sort of common for this sort of area. But what it ends up with as it gets older is very, very firm woody stems, yeah, but not too much structure to them. Okay, but what I'm particularly interested in is the leaves themselves. So a nice oval shape. They've got a real sort of soft feel to them, almost a bit sort of velvety, but they're not furry in particular. They just feel very, very soft. And if I give that a bit of a rub, just to bring out some of the detail, you can see we've got that lovely sort of centre stem, but that's the only part of the internal structure that's really visible. A great oval shape, sort of 2 to 4 centimetres in size, and they're really, really good either as a raw salad leaf. Again, I'd want to give them a really good wash, or you can cook them up as well. But when you are cooking them, or even if you're having them as a salad leaf, don't under any circumstances add salt, because one of the really good identifiers for this is its taste. It's got an amazing sort of fresh salty taste. So if you want to add a little bit of flavour into your cooking without using salt, this is the plant to use. Okay, we've got a lot of old growth on here at the moment, but as the season goes on we'll start to get some younger, fresher leaves, and those are going to be the ones that I'll want to pick. But yeah, sea purslane, or shore purslane is another common name, is a really nice one to pick for your salad bowl. This is the last plant I want to show you this morning. As the season goes on, we'll be revisiting and having a look at other bits and pieces, but this is the last one I want to cover today. So this one is sea beet, or wild spinach, so Beta vulgaris. Beta vulgaris is the scientific name. So this one, you know, tends to grow in nice clumps, and what we're looking for is just those lovely sort of shiny leaves with quite distinct veins running through them. Very difficult to confuse with anything else, so that clump-like nature is what we're looking for with those lovely sort of shiny spear-shaped leaves. So later on in the year there will be flowers, and we'll have some flowering stalks which will shoot up quite high, probably getting on to about 3 foot, sort of 90 centimetres in height. But this is the precursor to cultivated sort of spinaches and chards and things like that. So it's been cultivated now for quite a long time, but this is where it all started. So you know, we even sort of get all of the other beet families from this. So again, sort of picking this, you can pick it sort of between April and October, but what you're looking for is those thinner spear-shaped ones to be going for, rather than the older growth. But if you just stick with the smaller leaves, you know, those are the ones that you want to go for. And again, just really look out for that washing, you know, because you know, being on the ground, not only are you having problems with the water sort of chance of sort of contamination, but I don't know if you can see, but just there is a public footpath. So quite often, you know, the dogs might come through on their way to the shoreline and have a bit of an issue with wanting to water the foliage. Okay, but yeah, in terms of preparation, treat it exactly like a spinach. Right, that's it guys. Thank you very much for joining me and Willow. We're going to head off home now. We've done our walk for the day, and we're going to leave the wildlife to come back in. All I've got to do now is just find wherever Willow has left her ball. There we go. So, just got her ball down here. So let's find out where she's been hiding. Right, Willow, you ready? There you go. Where's Willow's back in action. Right, catch you next time, guys. Bye.